Okay. I'd like to call the Governance and Operations Committee meeting of November 12th to order, please. Members of the public can be present in council committee room during the meetings. And also please note that the webinar will be recorded and published to the city's YouTube site. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. And the recommendation is that the agenda for the Governance and Operations Committee meeting be adopted. There's someone, Councillor Martin, Councillor Cashel, all those in favor? Thank you, that was carried unanimously. We have 3 delegations today, and the first delegation on the list is the Elise Wren and Sal Facidosis for BC Transit, and it's the Downtown Trail Transit Exchange Program. And hi, Elise, thanks for being here today.
Thank you
and
for
I'll
having
just
us.
hand it over to you, I guess. Okay.
Okay, I've shared my screen. Can you see that there?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you for having us today. We'll be talking about the Trail Transit Exchange and giving you an update on the progress there. So first, a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge with respect that BC Transit delivers our mission on the ancestral territories of Indigenous peoples across British Columbia, and their historical relationships with the land continue to this day. My name is Elise Wren, so I'm the Manager of Government Relations for BC Transit for the Thompson-Kootenay area. I'm the main point of contact for our local government partners. So in terms of transit, the Regional District of Kootenay Boundary is your contract holder for your transit portfolio, but of course, City of Trail feeds into that. My primary contact is with the Regional District of Kootenay Boundary, and I'm their main point of contact to BC Transit. So I act as a concierge. I am a subject matter expert on nothing, but it's my job to know everything. But I'm supported by a whole host of people who support your transit system. My job is to monitor and communicate transit system performance, and also monitor risks to BC Transit, its leadership, and also risks to you, our local government partners. Joining me today is Sal Facidosis, Project Manager for Capital Projects, to discuss the history and the technical aspects of the exchange with you. First, I want to, just because we don't come to you very often to talk about transit, just a quick little primer as a reminder of how BC Transit works. So with our current partnership model, BC Transit coordinates the service delivery by working closely with our 58 local government partners and local operators who operate the transit systems, and then also with the provincial government. So we work with the RDKB, and a company called PWT, so Pacific Western Transport, operates your transit in the Trail area. Although BC Transit provides support and expertise in planning, the scheduling of transit systems is the role of local government, so the RDKB, to set fare prices, service levels and routes, and also the municipal budget. And then we subcontract operations of the transit system to our third party, so PWT, who's responsible for delivering on the ground transit service and managing customer service to our standards. In terms of funding, we have 2 main formulas. So your transit system has a conventional transit, so that's all of the fixed route buses you see going around. And we also have custom transit, which is the handy dart. So it's the cost sharing formula where local government keeps 100% of the revenue, and the balance is made up through local property taxes. And then the provincial government contributes 46% on your conventional transit, and then the provincial government contributes 66.69% on your handy dart. And just a reminder, if in case we need to refer back to it, this is your West Kootenay transit system. So you'll see you have a major backbone in regional transit, which is your 98 in Castlegarn Trail, and then the 98 in connecting Castlegar with Trail, and then the 99, which connects up to Nelson as well through Castlegar. So this is your major backbone through your quite complex transit system in the West Kootenays. And then just to give you a quick update on how your transit system is doing post-pandemic. So this is your conventional system. So your fixed route transit system, you'll see over on the very far left, 2019 is where we left off before the pandemic. You'll see a sharp decrease in 2020 of ridership, and then building your way back up to this past year of 23-24. You're not back up to pre-pandemic levels yet. This is very normal for what we're seeing in the province and how it's tracking. And that it's a slow and steady build back to pre-pandemic. So April 23 to March 24 showed approximately 350,000 rides, up from 330,000 rides the previous year. And pre-COVID was approximately 400,000 rides. And then a similar trend here, but this is for your custom, so your HandyDART. You are reaching that pre-pandemic level. Approximately 9,100 rides, up from 7,000 rides last year, much closer to the 10,000 rides of pre-COVID. So now I'm going to pass it over to Sel to talk more about the Trail Exchange project.
Thank you, Alice. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, my apologies. My cam is not working. I don't know why. So I'm just going ahead with the presentation without my camera on. Yeah, so talking about the Trail Exchange project, this is the location of the project, the Cedar Avenue. You can see it starts from between the Spokane Street and Portland Street. This is the exact location of the proposed project. Next slide, please. Yeah, the project is approved by ISEP for $3.73 million. It was approved in the month of December 2023, and we have moved forward with the detailed design from there onwards. The project aligns with the core objective of increased ridership and realizes the goal set within 2016 Greater Trail Transit Service Review and 2021 Transit Future Service Plan, West Kootenay Transit System. The study conducted through Infrastructural Exploration Agreement 2020 confirmed the viability of an enhanced trail exchange. 11 potential locations were analyzed as part of the Downtown Trail Transit Exchange study, which was completed in May 2021. Public engagement was completed in 2022 with the City of Trail approving the recommended design concept and principle. Next slide, please. The project overview. The project includes 6 concrete bus pads, that's the curb space for bus, 3 bus shelters and up to 9 benches, installation of up to 6 bike racks and a washroom facility. Sidewalk widening, reconstruction, and street resurfacing and line painting and crosswalk paintings, including ancillary infrastructures like landscaping and irrigation, whatever comes in that vicinity. The project will also deliver a safe design certification. The project will be delivered by BC Transit. The project is now, it has been completed 30% detailed design and now moving towards 60% detailed design. We expect that the detailed design will be completed somewhere in spring 2025, and construction will start around summer 2025. And we expect that construction to be completed by the end of 2025. Next slide, please. This is the very preliminary detailed design of 30% design. So you can see the layout coming out, and we are adjusting the parking lots, the roadside parking in different directions, and trying to adjust the 6 bus pads and shelters and all those things are going on. 60% will be more clear to understand how we are proceeding further. Thank you.
So we, as part of this project, we come to you with 30, 60, and 90% design drawings. This is really just an opportunity for us to show you where the project is at this point, and to offer up if you have any questions.
Any questions at this point? No.
Oh, Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you for that presentation. If you could just. I'm echoing, sorry. The city trail is looking at removing a building on 900 Spokane Street.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are fully aware of that, I'm assuming.
We are, yes. And I will be working with, my contact is Colin McClure. So I will be working with him to speak to the right people to make sure that we're aligning our timings.
Thank you.
Councillor, Mr. McClure.
Thanks for the presentation, Lisa and Sel. One quick question is that you've got the buses down in front of Selkirk College there, but I'm not sure that is that sort of a future plan, or is that something that we would be building in? Certainly the bus spots that you have from Helena to Spokane are used and you can see the buses parked there, but it is very infrequent that we see the other 2 buses down at the Selkirk College end of that. And I'm not sure if it's like, well, we've got the PTIP granting, we're creating this space because we are, you know, projecting for future buses or, you know, future needs if we're going to have 6 buses parked there at some point in time.
Yeah, so typically what we see is future growth is built into this. But Sel, did you want to comment?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the bus bays have been, we have arrived at the bus bays and the number of buses, considering the future ridership, and all those bus stops and ridership have been already built into the detailed design. So we have moved forward with the 6 bays at this location, considering the future growth. So yeah, I think everything has been covered as per our past studies, and our detailed design have covered each and every aspect of the future riderships.
And on this design, so I think it'll be important for council to see the next drawing at 60% for sure. It would appear that most of the upgrade of sidewalk, and that seems to be in that between Portland and Helena side, you know, with looks like the washroom and then sort of the bump outs, or sort of the angling of the buses.
Sorry, was that a question?
Yeah, is that, again, when you look at this particular drawing, it would appear that not much work is currently happening with the sidewalk or design between Spokane and Helena. But it looks like most of the work is happening down between Helena and Portland, in front of Selkirk College, where there appears to be some angle bus spots that aren't there now, the trees, other washroom, that sort of, this is where the focus of this work will happen.
Sel, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the angle parking and the bus pads, you can see, I mean, we have bus pads in different angles. So that's because of the constraint of bus bay, entering to pick up the riders and then getting out. So those are the ones which we usually see during the detailed design. And as per that, we will consider the angle of the bus bays and all. And when you go to the other side, I mean, as you go, so it depends on how the road width is and how we are going to utilize that. So if it is not required, we don't really consider. One part of this project required the angle of change for the bus pads, and the other side did not require. So we did not consider that. But still, the bus pads are there. And you can clearly see that at 60%. Definitely, we'll be sharing it to your team. You can have a review of that. And we are concerned about the safety of ridership and all those. So that's where we go with angle parking and then picking up and dropping off and all those stuff. So as we go straight, and we don't really require the bus to change the direction, so we don't do that.
And happy
And
to
so-
bring it back to council for 60 and 90, should you wish.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be important, in particular, because it would certainly seem that on this drawing that you've got two new bus stops down in the block between Helena and Portland, just one shelter on the Spokane to Helena section. Although that's where most right now, currently, that's where most of the activity is, so I'm not sure if you're, and especially if you're saying that the Helena to Portland section is for future growth, it may seem a bit odd to have two bus pads and two bus shelters and not have any buses pulling in there.
Sal, is that the intention, or is the intention to use both sides, or to focus on the?
It's only one side right now, so we
Yeah.
don't see the development in both sides. So as of now, it's just one side we are focusing on it, and but then the line paint and road resurfacing, and so those are the ones which we will do it for both sides. But the bus bays are concentrated on one directions. So as of now, you can see that. As we move forward with 60%, 60% will really give you a clear picture with more detail on it. And with the turning radius of the buses, all those things will be incorporated in 60%. And we will really understand whether this angular parking is feasible for, or we need to move it somewhere around with the turning radius of the buses. So those are the ones which are right now going on. So it is just a preliminary design. So it's a 30%. So we are not having much detail on to show you. So 60% will definitely help you understand even better.
And I assume with that 60%, you'll be able to provide council with kind of a street view.
Yeah,
Rather than
you
from
will,
the top.
yes, we will incorporate even the map into the drawing so that council can understand what the real picture and the drawing is. So we will incorporate both and show you the comparison.
And sorry, and that's happening end of spring sort of thing is where you're thinking that we'll be at?
Well, that's 90% I'm talking about the spring. 60% you will receive around Jan. End of Jan, you will be receiving the 60% detailed design.
Okay, so we'll book you in for then.
Thank you.
So I do have a question as well, if I could just jump in here. I'm really concerned about the parking spaces that we'll be losing. Do you have a number for us at this time?
At this time, we are trying to understand how better we can have the bus bays and bus flow in that route. And yeah, as we will get the numbers soon to you. We'll have it sooner.
For context, we have just gone through this exercise with City of Nelson with their exchange. And there was a concern there, loss of parking spaces, and then also having bus in front of businesses and restaurants. So we're well aware of those concerns and happy to work with you on how many parking spots that is. If there can be a different place where parking could be recouped, this is something we did for City of Nelson as well. So happy to work with you on that.
That's great, because it looks like we're losing one whole side of the street. And yeah, we have really minimum spaces for parking right now downtown, so it is a concern for our community for sure.
I tried to park downtown last time I was there. I couldn't get any parking. I had to walk quite a few blocks.
Okay. Okay, so we have another meeting with you then in January or February, and we'll see what 60% looks like.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions before we? Mr. Nantini, did you have any questions? No.
No, the only question I have is there a possibility of getting a copy of this presentation?
Sure. Sure, I don't see why not. We have a copy of it in our package here, so. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll thank you for coming today, and we look forward to meeting with you in January.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Always a
very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have another delegation this afternoon. You guys can discuss these chairs at the end here and work.
We only have a smaller group. Small group, 2 away.
There's lots of room for you today.
Very interested in this.
Settled, okay. Our next delegation is Barb Gibson and Brenda Hooper from the Generation to Generation Society to give us an update on the sanctuary. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. We have good news and bad news. Good news is we're busting at the seams. Over COVID and so forth, our use got a little less and now it's been growing and growing. And we do, because of our interior health regulations, we have a cap of 25 kids that can be there at any one time. And sometimes these days we've exceeded that, but it works itself out because somebody has to go home or that kind of stuff. But, we're kind of busting at the seams. We had 341 kids we gave meals to, and last month. A total children, 471 over the month. Things like that. Over the summer, we had 10 new registrations, and those were all kids whose families had only just recently come to Canada and to Trail. So we're starting to, our population is starting to kind of reflect the population of our town, our city. And so that we're really pleased with that, because some of our programming is around, they were doing around the world, and they were trying foods from different countries and talking about the cultures and those kinds of things. So we're really pleased to have a variety, some diversity with the kids that are there. So we're really pleased to be able to serve people and do things. The bad news, I'll let Barbara talk.
Oh, sure. Right, I've given you financial statements as of the end of September, which is 3/4 of the way through the year. And some of it is a little misleading because some of this money is going to be pushed into next year. If you want to go down the profit and loss report, which I think should be your first one, we have all sorts of donations, building grants. That United Way grant is to last us until the end of June. So there's still 3 more months in this year and 6 more months in 25. So that has to cover 9 months of wages and food and materials, crafts and that sort of thing. Everything else is pretty spot on. That's the only big one. I should say that we have received a grant from the community group through Leroy Foundation of $50,000, but that is for next year. And that will go towards wages for one of our employees, part of her wages. And then we have our expenses, which again are self-explanatory. You'll see that, of course, the majority of our cost is wages. It always is in any nonprofit. And then anything that says SO in front is Schools Out, which is funded by the United Way grant. And some of those wages are also paid by the United Way grant. And then there's building maintenance, property taxes, utilities, which seem to skyrocket all the time. So this shows we have a net profit of 34,000, but if you take, I don't know, 50,000 or a little under out of the income, that would be more accurate, because that is what the grant is from the United Way for September through to next June. So if you take that out of the income, then yeah, we're not looking at such a favorable picture. There wouldn't be a profit of 34,000, that's for sure. The balance sheet, probably the next page, shows a more accurate picture. And that is petty cash and everything is fine there. The United Way account, as I say, has $49,000 in it, but a lot of that, the majority of that will go into next year's wages. And then we have money in the TD Bank, and that is from rent and donations. Our monthly donations and our rent goes into that account. Because if you look a couple up, you'll see Kootenai Savings Credit Union, that is our operating account, which had $431 in it as of the end of September. So we're kind of reaching crunch time right now. We usually get more donations in December for Christmas. But this part of the year is always a real crunch time for us as far as income goes. What we have been doing is sort of draining the TD Bank so we can make payroll on that, and then letting that build up and then draining it again. So that's the way it goes. And then we have our furniture and fixtures and sanctuary, which is not much. We did furniture and fixtures, not much again for the apartments. The building we spent a ton of money on through grants. Teresa Baker worked with Fortis and CBT and some people out of housing down on the coast. And we replaced all our lighting, we actually added insulation in the attic space. I don't think there was anything in there before. So we did, I don't know, probably $150,000 worth of work on the building itself through grants. It was all grants, because a lot of it was the Fortis, you know, improve your power usage. They changed all the lights. She just had a lot of work done. So, yeah, so that was great. So that, of course, makes our building look really good at $447,000. Less the depreciation, and then there's a bit of land. And then there's a few liabilities, which is payroll deductions, bank time payable, vacation payable, and of course, damage deposits for our renters. So, yeah, everything balances out. We have way more in assets than we do in liabilities, that's for sure. Even with no money in the bank. We have a lot of money in assets. We're heavy into assets.
Land rich, cash poor.
Exactly, you got it, you got it.
Denied. Kid.
But kid rich.
Kid rich,
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we are. So questions, we're happy to answer. Yes.
Go ahead, Councilor Martin.
That's all right.
I said yes, I didn't wait for calling for the mayor,
Just
so.
out of curiosity, what do you usually, if you could average it out, just a ballpark figure, get for donations at Christmas time annually?
Oh, golly.
I know it would depend. It depends on how generous
I
people are.
donate to Sanctuary, but I'm not part of this presentation.
Oh, well, we get a lot of in-kind donations at that point in time. People walking in with things for Christmas. As far as donations go, it's probably about 2,500, 3,000, somewhere in there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I have a quick question as well. You said 341 children access the sanctuary?
No.
I just wondered what the age group was.
Oh, they're 8 to 12-year-olds. When they turn 13, they age out. They could become a junior volunteer if they get the concept of being an asset. And there's supposed to be 8, there's the odd kid that's 7, almost 8 kind of stuff, but our regulations are 8 to 12, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Councilor Castro.
So you're seeking 10,000 in grants? Where does that, how did you come up with the 10,000? Is that,
That's what it costs to run a month.
okay. Have we historically been giving monies to Sanctuary? I believe we have, but you're one of our regular cash donators. What's our historical history on donations?
Yes, I think, I have a feeling, I don't know, but I think on the first page under 4038, that's the City of Trails grant right there.
Mhm.
So I don't know if they're looking for a grant for 2024 or for 2025, or if they're trying to double up 2024's. That's one of those questions that I.
So Mike, so for clarity, did we give them a grant already this year?
Oh, well, I think it may be in here, but I don't know if they have that.
No, we received a grant last year
Okay.
about this time.
Mhm.
We had applied the previous year in November, but got it last year because you were in
Yeah.
flux sort of thing. But historically, in the past, I know that at one point in time, we had a contract, a 3-year contract, which laid out exactly, we were getting this every year. Back then, it was 7,500. But of course, costs have gone up since then. And that was nice for us because we knew we had that money coming. So I would be more than happy to do a contract again, because I don't see us going anywhere with the numbers we're getting. But that's your choice.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But so do you know under grants right now, do you know what that grant is from?
Under grants right now, yes, I do. That $10,000 is from RDKB. RDKB and Tech give us $10,000 every year. And we're hoping the city will do the same. So that takes us, that's basically 3 months worth of expenses. And the rest of it we make up with donations, with the rent from the apartments above us. Any other grants that we might be able to get to offset the costs. But as you may be aware, getting money for wages is really, really hard. No one wants to give any money for wages. We had no problem getting all this money to make repairs to the building. Because it's capital, right? You're investing in capital costs. It's not going anywhere. But honestly, trying to get grants for wages is virtually impossible unless you come up with a new program. But we don't want a new program. We're happy with I don't know what we could do other than what we're doing really, so. Yeah, so that's our situation.
And so of the 10,000, that is our DKB and
That is-
you're waiting for tech, is that what you're saying?
No, Tech gave us money at the beginning of the year. They get a receipt for it. So they're part of that 46,000. So in fact, the donations other than Tech would be 36,655.
And just so council's aware, if RDKB is putting in that 10,000, then the city of Trail taxpayer is paying 60% of that. They go
That's right.
through. So just so you're aware that
Mhm.
on how we're funding these things.
Okay,
I have,
okay.
can I ask a question? You spoke about in-kind donations. What is it that you need?
Well, sometimes, especially around Christmas when the weather is bad, we do get donations of new clothing, especially outerwear for the children. We have in the past received boots, beautiful boots. And then we also get food donations. And, we have worked in the past with the Skill Center, and their staff has chipped in money, and that money goes to purchase gifts for the families, so that the children can actually give their parents something on Christmas. They earn that through chores. And, yeah, so that's always great that the kids can then give their parents a gift that's unexpected. And last year, they gave them a gift, it was a craft thing, but in the summer, they had tried to grow the gardens down there. And about the only thing that actually survived was sage, I think. That was it. Basil,
They
basil,
gave pesto
yeah.
pit for a meal and they packaged it up and they were able to.
Yeah, they bottled up the pesto and gave it to their parents along with a gift that they did. I think it was a globe they painted. I don't know. That's not my part of the program, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so right now you would, you probably need more clothing like jackets and boots and. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our families are definitely struggling.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if they're both working, they're not making enough to make it, well, not for any extras. You know, we just got our report from our program manager and she did a big Thanksgiving dinner, you know, turkey, the whole thing. And of course, the kids help prepare everything. They prep the veg and do all of that. And there was a couple of kids in there that were so excited because their parents don't do that. And they probably just don't have the money.
Mhm.
Like, that's a big expense. So if we've got extra, we send it back home.
So I know at the beginning you mentioned that you had international children coming in there as well. And I know that they're probably lower income families, but how many kids would you have from that bracket of international students?
I have no idea.
Well, there were
Or new?
10 new people, kids
Mhm.
in the summer that registered that were international people,
Okay.
new immigrants. And there's been 3 or 4 in September as well, so.
Okay,
And not all of them are international. but,
right, they're
You know,
just.
out of the 50 or so kids who were actually registered,
Mhm.
they're probably, I would say, 15 to 20, because we had some from before and we're adding on now.
Mhm.
So,
And they're new residents, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
and
Okay,
the parents like it because the children get to socialize on a more,
mhm.
you know, on a level that's not school.
Sure.
It's ordinary. How do you talk like a Canadian?
Well, exactly, and plus they learn our culture too,
Exactly, yeah.
when they're with the other kids too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
does council have any other questions? Okay, thank you. for your
Thank you very
presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you.
So, our third delegation today is the Lower Columbia Affordable Housing Society and the Capacity Building Plan, and Jan Morton is here today. It says Tanya Dale, but I
Well, yes, I
don't
don't get a
believe
little
she's
background
online.
here.
So I'll let you go ahead then, Jan.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, and thank you for inviting us to be here. Tanya had committed to come basically because I was in hospital having surgery. So, but we discovered that I actually am doing fine. My only thing is I'm gonna say I probably have a little bit of post-surgical brain, so cut me
Oh,
some,
dear.
cut me some slack here. But otherwise, thank you very much. So I don't need to introduce myself relative to the Lower Columbia Affordable Housing Society. You know me well. I've been founding president of the organization, established in 2013. We're now 2024, so year 11. In Trail, we have 15 units of housing, 3 properties, and by September of 2025, we're going to have 87 units in the Lower Columbia region because we'll be opening up the building in Fruitvale as well. And so this period of time, you know, this past couple of years and moving ahead is a real transition point for the Lower Columbia affordable housing. You know, we got into it and we've got board members. I'm not the only one who started in 2013. We have board members who have stayed involved throughout this whole period of time. And our involvement has been driven absolutely by heart. We're just gonna make this blessed thing work and, you know, hair straight back and figure out how to build a building. You know? But you can only do that for so long. I, not all that long ago, had a birthday and I suddenly realizing, oh, I'm starting to look at the 3/4 of the century age. And, you know, I'm not gonna be here forever and I'm not, again, not the only one. So what we're doing is so what does that look like going into the future? You know, we own these buildings. And we operate these buildings. We want them operating 50 years. Housing says 60 years, but you know, whatever. We want them in good shape in this community, providing good housing for lower income households for a very long period of time, long after I'm on the other side of the grass. So how do we get the organization in that place? So first phase of that, and those of you who are maybe involved in the READY funding applications in the spring, we applied for some funds to actually begin a capacity planning project. And we've been busily working with a consultant on business analysis and business planning, and that's going ahead quite well. We'll probably have a final report on that in January or February, and that's going to help us move forward. But we also then know that there's other things we need to do. And the next critical step that we need to take is we need to get to a solid asset management plan. And you as city councillors and staff, you well know the importance of asset management planning. Because you've got to be really prepared. We've got to be prepared 50 years from now for when the roof has to be replaced. And we've got to have the money and you know, you can, you know, plug your nose and just put money in the bank and say, you know, may it be there, but that isn't good planning. So where we intend to go is to have building condition reports, building condition analysis of all of our properties done. And there we would contract the services of the BC Nonprofit Housing Association, just because, I mean, they know what they're doing and they're affordable. This is basically what it amounts to. And then that will feed into a capital management plan and then ultimately into an asset management plan. So again, so we're just really solidly based and be partners to you in the long haul. I mean, that's what we want to do. So all of that costs money. We don't have that kind of money, you know, sitting loosely in our accounts. BC Housing wants us to have those capital management and asset management plans there, but they don't actually fund it. They fund us for a lot of things, but that is not something they fund us for. So that's what I'm coming to you on behalf of the society to ask for assistance. We have also, for our properties in Rossland, we have submitted a separate application to address that need in Rossland. And when the time comes, we'll be doing so for Fruitvale. But this is where I'm asking for a grant and aid, and ideally for 15,500. That would cover the cost of contracting the folks from BC Nonprofit Housing, as well as our staff and contractor time that have to work with them when they're doing that planning. Because every time they're having to work on a project like that, means they're not working on other aspects of the organizational management. So, you know, that's a genuine cost. Again, we're just not sitting there with that money in the bank. So, certainly not looking for any profit on this particular little project. It is just to get us going. And so I'm appealing to you, can you help us? Ideally, you would help us with the whole amount of money, because then we can just get her going. If not, what I would hope that you would allow us to do is to hold whatever you award us, and then we'll go looking elsewhere. I don't have ready solutions right now, but I mean, you know, I'm pretty good at fundraising, so actually, we'll probably find the money. But our preference would be to get going now, so that we, you know, when, as it comes together with the business management report, then we have all the data really solid. We'll move into strategic planning. There are some also organizational development initiatives that are part of this that we're plodding along with as volunteers, but I'm not gonna take a lot of your time on that. So, and please do not ask me to be bothered and read the financial report, because I forgot to bring a hard copy, and I'll do the best I can.
Okay, thanks, John. Is there any questions from council? Councilor Cashel.
Thank you, Mary Jones.
Yeah.
Ms. Martin, what's the cost of the actual, assessment? So minus of
The
your,
building condition reports.
it's like a depreciation report, I'm thinking it's similar to, maybe.
Okay,
Anyway,
content, well, as I'm an expert, no, but what it tells me is, I mean, I'm using this example, is in 2026, we can anticipate we're gonna have to replace a boiler, and we can project that it probably doesn't.
and how many years down the road you might need a roof, and these type of things, right?
Precisely. And these aren't the little repairs, you know, these aren't the little fix-up repairs, these are the big, keep the building in really good shape repairs.
You know,
And we do, I will tell you, on an annual basis, we do put money into a building reserve fund, but we don't know if we're putting enough in. And we're not scaling it properly. And so if you've got a good plan, then you know how much you can invest and make money on and hold for the future and all of that kind of stuff. I know that that's what it will produce for us. Am I an expert, Nick?
No, I understand that part of it, but I'm just asking the LCAH, what are they charging you? Or I'm sorry, what is?
BC nonprofit.
Yeah, what is the BC Nonprofit Housing Association charging you guys to do this analysis? Or assessment?
I'm gonna say 12,000.
Okay,
Can I
yeah, I mean, I'd just like to break it down to see, you know. how much
take
they're
10% off 15,500? It'll be about 14,000 actually. Sorry,
Okay.
we've added 10% for,
Yeah.
no, we added 15%. I'm sorry, we added 15% for our staffing, so it'll be around 14, excuse me.
That's okay. It's okay.
I'm really, really good at being passionate and.
So
involve other
this
really
is
good people.
for, yeah, sorry, Jen, to interrupt, but this is for the 3 buildings that you have in trail right
In trail.
now. Okay, so you want to go in and do the assessment planning on those 3 buildings?
And assuming Rosslyn comes on board with us,
Mhm.
we actually will parallel it.
Okay.
And do the
with-
same thing with Rosslyn.
Oh, I
And then
see,
we'll
okay.
bring the data together into a common plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions for John? No? Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. I know, you know, this really aligns with what the city of Trail wants to be able to do, keep the housing, you know, for the vulnerable population, affordable housing in particular. So, yes, thank you for being here
And
today.
thank you very much, Mayor Jones. I mean, we want to be here for a long time, and
Mhm.
partners with you for a long time, and we'd like to grow with you for sure.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So moving on. To communications. Thanks, John. Be careful out there.
Oh, we're fine.
Item number 3, communications, and this is for the council committee updates. And I will pass this over to Ms. Butler to walk us through this. Please.
Thank you, your worship. So through to the committee. So with our pending new procedures bylaw coming up, I thought I should take it upon myself to go through our committees standing and select, and also our liaisons, and make sure that we had people appointed till the end of the term for our select committees. And also just clean up what we've got as terms of reference and perhaps those committees that have concluded. So what I do suggest here is perhaps just starting with the first motion, which is to confirming the appointments to the select committees. And just in that motion, I just wanted to point out that the official community plan, the terms of reference there, the mayor's already appointed through the terms of reference. So that's why it just speaks to Councillor Benson and Hanson are the 2 council representatives at that committee. So the other ones I have marked whether it is a chair or an alternate. So if we could start with that motion, and
I'll make that motion.
You'll make that motion, okay. I sort of feel that I should read it out just for the public to know what we're doing here before we follow through with the recommendation. And so the recommendation is that council confirm the following council select committee appointments ending October 16th, 2026. And the first one is the Trail Regional Airport Advisory Committee, and that's Councillor Hanson is the chair and Councillor Butler. The Abilities Awareness Advisory Committee is Councillor Martin. The Major Industry Property Taxation Committee is Mayor Jones as the chair and Councillor Martin and Wilson. The Trail Area Health and Environment Committee is Mayor Jones as chair, Councillor Hanson is the alternate. The Silver City Days Committee is Councillor Benson as the chair with Councillor Cashall as the co-chair. The Community Safety Task Force is Councillor Martin as the chair and Councillor Benson as the alternate. And the Official Community Plan is Councillor Benson and Councillor Hanson. And myself as the chair.
Oh, yeah, I'll get.
All those in favor of the recommendation? You need a seconder, please.
I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Sorry.
Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Martin. Okay. All those in favor? That was carried. Thank you. And item 2.2.
Thank you. So the next motion is basically just to clean up what we've got on the books right now as far as committees. And I think the report speaks to a lot of those. Some of the questions that may come up, I would suggest would be probably the Communities in Bloom recommendation. And my concern there is that the city has on its books a terms of reference for the Communities in Bloom, but that is not a committee of council. So we shouldn't have terms of references for committees that we are actually not in control of. We have a liaison to Communities in Bloom, and we also financially support the Communities in Bloom. So my suggestion here is that we delete what we have now. And if Communities in Bloom need help to formulate terms of reference that the committee actually adopts, we can assist with that, but it separates us from the Communities in Bloom versus what is a council committee, because those are 2 separate things. So most of these things that I have recommended, I'm trying to clean up sort of that gray area where we may have councillors appointed to committees and that are not council committees, but they're actually liaisons, and they should just be going to these meetings to get information and bring that back to council, to actually have council liaisons going to committees and actually voting makes it very gray, especially for those committees that we are financially supporting. So that is what I'm trying to do here, is to clean that up. It doesn't mean that once we clean it up, none of those come back. It's reformulating what we're doing and making sure that there is that division between what is council and what is a community, group.
Okay.
So,
So just to be clear though, that the council members that are already appointed and are the liaisons will continue until the end of October 16th, 2026.
and that is correct. So in my report, 3.3 speaks of those.
Okay,
Yeah, so, and that is, you know, there's a few things there, like the Columbia River one, where
Mhm.
we've appointed Counselor Wilson, but that.
Hey, who's
whole-
talking about my committees?
But, the Columbia River, that was an appointment many years ago before we had the Columbia River Treaty. And so that is all, has moved on to another level. And I've spoken about that in my report, explaining that it's a responsibility of the BC government in our area through the Columbia River Treaty Local Governments Committee. And the current representative named as a local government representative for our area is Gordon Denkovsky, who is appointed by the Regional District of Kootenay Boundary. So, appointments to that, committee come up through the Columbia River Treaty Local Governments Committee, and you would apply to them to be part of the board. So us appointing somebody doesn't really mean anything, because they may be our representative, but they're not a representative on the actual governing body.
Mhm.
So, I have to clean that one up. Yeah, there's a few committees there, also you can see where we just haven't used since, it's like 2012. Ones that have, run their course, skate park or skateboard park, riverfront center building, pipe and pedestrian bridge, downtown opportunities and action planning, and the Violent Lake Committee. Those have all, were established for certain projects that have now concluded, but they're still on our books. So, just trying to clean those up. The Seniors Advisory Committee, I know that we've had that established for quite some time, but it's basically being replaced, and that was a lot of concentration when we were coming up with the, sorry, I have to read my own report, the age-friendly action plan. There was a lot of concentrated effort to make sure that that action plan was heavily informed by our senior population. But now we have seniors on the Ability Awareness Advisory Committee, and we also have them on the Community Safety Task Force. So to have another seniors committee on top of that, I think we will be diluting what we've got that are already established committees that are working really hard and representing the senior population in both of those. Yeah, so any other
Councillor
questions?
Campbell has a question.
Just a couple of points. Thank you, Ms. Butler. I guess while we're on the Seniors Advisory Committee, I appreciate the report, and I can understand the position that the city is taking on this, but I'd like to maybe suggest that we send a letter to the Society for the Protection and Care of Seniors, who I've been kind of a self-appointed liaison from city council on that committee, and they have been lobbying quite hard. In fact, it's been on their agenda for the last almost 2 years that I've been periodically working with them to advocate for this committee. So I'd like to send a letter to them, just updating them on our position. Is that possible?
Yeah, once we pass this.
Okay,
then
well, if it
we
gets to
can-
that point,
Yeah.
where it's passed, okay.
Yeah, then we can.
And then just-
pass that.
Yeah, just on, just some clarity for me and perhaps Mr. Nutini, who happens to be a Community in Bloom committee person. So if I read this correctly, the communities in Bloom have been operating, believing that they're part of a select committee of council for the past 23 years, but they haven't been?
They can't be. It's not, Communities in Bloom are a separate committee. We do not appoint people to the Communities in Bloom. They appoint their own board. They also, we send a liaison, which I believe is yourself. But we also fund them.
Yes.
So they are very separate to what an actual select or standing committee is of council. And I think we need to make sure we're separating that, so we are functioning in the right governance structure of what a committee is. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a CID committee, but they are a committee of themselves,
Right.
not a committee of council.
But I mean, when I was appointed as a committee member by Mayor Jones 2 years ago. So it looks like we've been doing it wrong, is what I'm trying to say.
I would say it's a new day.
A new day. All right, thank you.
But you're still on it until the end of
I'm
the,
the liaison now. I'm
Yeah,
not
You are a
committee member.
liaison, correct?
So, yeah, at some point, the Communities in Bloom committee will have to regroup and come up with a new terms of reference.
For themselves, correct. And I mean, they are welcome to have the one that we have as a starting point, and as staff, we're more than happy to help them, but it is something that is their committee's terms of reference that they need to adopt.
And just for the record, I did work with them, primarily it was Keith Smythe back in late April, I believe, to put together a new updated terms of reference, which I sent to mayor and council and staff back in April, asking for feedback and input. But I guess now is the time we're getting the feedback and input, so better late than never. So anyway, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
okay, thank you, Councillor Cashel. So the recommendation 2.2 is that the following standing and select terms of reference be deleted, and that those committees considered concluded are the Governance and Operations Committee, the Information Systems Planning Committee, the Community Initiatives Local Selection Committee, the Seniors Advisory Committee, the Skateboard Park Committee, the Government Relations Committee, the Riverfront Center Building Committee, the Pipe and Pedestrian Bridge Steering Committee, the Downtown Opportunities and Action Planning Committee, the City Liaison Committee, the Violin Lake Committee, the Promotion Committee, the Environmental Sustainability Committee, and the Communities in Bloom Committee. So the recommendation is before you. Someone, Councillor Martin. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Cashel, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. That was carried unanimously. Okay, I think that's all of that. Go ahead.
Can I just make one point? Our next, so this is in committee right now, and we'll be coming forward to the next regular meeting to be confirmed. And then following that, once the Governance and Operations Committee is officially done, that's when we will be going to our new committee of the whole system. So it'll be that first meeting in December, the only meeting in December.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the General Governance and Finance report, and that is from CAO McClure, and I will hand the.
Excuse me, Mayor Jones,
Oh, sorry.
I think on this subject of committees, there was another committee I just wanted some clarity on.
Okay.
Perhaps, this, Jeannie can help as well. And that is the Greener Trail Home and Champions Society Committee, which I was appointed to a member last, when I became recently elected. So I'm now going to just be a liaison to that.
It's a distinct society that was created by the city in the 90s prior to the construction of the monument. So it's not a committee, it's a society, registered
Right.
under the Societies Act.
Okay,
And under its constitution and bylaws, one member of city council is a member of the society and appointed into that position by council.
so does
So
that
that is
remain the
just-
same? Does that?
Yeah, it remains the same. It's just a bit of an
So
anomaly.
this is not a committee, this is a, okay, now, because I have a copy here. So am I still
You're
the
good.
chair?
Yes.
Nice try.
Well, okay, so that clarifies that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, okay. So before I hand it over to Mr. McClure, is that everything about that? Okay, thanks, everyone. I know it's a lot of information and a lot of changes there. Okay, on to Mr. McClure with the 2025 utility fund budgets. Then we're looking at the water and sewer user rates today.
Okay, I'm going to attempt here, as much as it might, I'm not sure how this will work, but, because I know that Mr. Wilson is online and then maybe others will be on later, so I'm gonna share my screen. And, here we go. Okay. That's on the screen, but I think that where I'll start is with the PowerPoint diagrams or listings. It's this document here, it's, for the court. Just kind of going through a few things and then we'll go through the more detailed numbers on the spreadsheet. Just to hit it right off the bat, kind of what I'm looking at when I look through the finances and what's happened in the current 2024 year and some of the changes that I am suggesting. Right off the bat, you can see that I've continued, as I've discussed for the last number of years, that our water rates are far too low for putting any money into funding capital over and above the operational costs, which is again a common situation in many communities where your operating cost, your utility rate is set at an amount that you're not getting anywhere near the amount of money that you need to, do the upgrade of infrastructure that is required. And City of Trail is in a process right now. I think we've done really well. We've had almost 8.5 in 2023, and then a 7.4 in 2024. And then again, I had said I'm going to keep coming back for this 10% because we need to increase the numbers. So I'm just showing you what that effect is in this particular sheet. And in water rates, you can see that $10 or 10% change is an increase of about $44 on the single family dwelling home. In the same boat, see some really positive results, funding and otherwise into the sewer rates. And so that's an area where I'm thinking that we'll be able to maybe do some reallocation to assist with the pressure on the water fund itself. And that's something we'll talk to you about a bit later. But in the current form, just on regular for sewer, looking at a 3% increase. Now we've had higher than that for the last couple of years, but 3%, and I kind of see 3% being something that we would stay at. Maybe we could even drop a bit lower, but I think at 3% you'll see as we go through the sheets that it keeps things kind of status quo. And you never know when you're going to have a, hey, you've got a really big job to do, and it'd be good to have money in the bank to be able to do that. The other component is that we have moved forward from being the ones responsible for collection of residential garbage. So that happened last October. Council will remember that. That is all now handled with the RDKB. They take care of both organics and garbage. They use the same truck. It's a dual compartment truck, which is very efficient when you think about not just having another truck go through your neighborhood to pick up organic separately. So I think it's very wise and it was smart of the city to allow them to take on all of it. And that's, I think, we'll talk a little bit further on about the results of that. But my thought process is that now that we don't have the residential garbage pickup component, which was the main driver for the garbage fee that you had, and now we sort of have this fall and spring cleanup, which is more of a public works internal work that they do to go and assist our community with taking care of that we would eliminate that garbage fee from the utility bill. So the utility bills come out here and usually late January, gives them set in a time frame that allows for the bills to come out and allows for a good amount of time for individuals and businesses to come in and pay their rate to receive the discount that's involved with the utilities. So right now, after discount for 2024, the garbage fee was $23. I'm suggesting that we would eliminate that in 2025. Now, someone's gotta pay for, the pickup of, the yard waste, and that's something that, right now, it's about 85,000 is the cost. We have, not quite exactly a 42-42 split of spring versus fall. And equipment and staffing, but that's right now is what I'm expecting in 2025, that, it would be about 85,000. And if you were to have that become part of, not a fee for, on the utility bill, but as part of taxes, that 85,000 would likely have an increase of about $6 on the average home, based on 2024's assessed value. We don't have 2025 yet. That'll be coming out in the next number of weeks or months. So that's a quick snapshot of sort of what the ask is. You can see, yes, water up at $44. You got your sewer at $8. But you would also be taking away the garbage fee of 23. The utility bill year over year comparison with those increases would be about $29. Again, to try to show what the monthly change is. Yeah, but also not wanting to lose sight of the fact that it just doesn't go into thin air if you don't have a garbage fee, but we are funding it inside taxes. So I'm going to now just talk a bit about the water utility budgets and sewer utility budgets. And again, a couple things. One of the main drivers that we've been wanting to have, and as we discussed strategic priorities, is that we know that we've got some pretty major capital work that needs to be done at the city, in particular in water. One of the interesting components here, and what a great partnership that the city is involved with, where you have your sewage treatment plant, but it's shared because you've got Roslyn, Warfield, and Trail all coming together and being involved with the wastewater treatment plant. But that wastewater treatment plant is operated by the regional district. So that's where that taxation goes to fund that. On the sewer side, you're really just basically responsible for transmission lines from the home and then to the main transmission trunk from Trail over to the sewage treatment plant, and of course any lift stations that you might have. So it's not nearly as capital intensive as your water system, because water system here, you pump up out of the Columbia, a big portion of that, the water is treated and then gravity fed back out to the community. Certainly in certain areas where it gets low, it needs to be pumped back up to some reservoirs like Lookout, and then feeding out to the homes. We also have Bear Creek, which is a special aquifer that you have out the Weedaway there, and it's also a major component of providing water for the city. One thing that did not happen, especially with the changeover in senior management and public works, is that one major project for water was the water master plan was not updated. And that's something that we've noted is high on the list for 2025, and so staff have already been directed to get moving on that. And that's going to be one that's going to drive, council understanding what the priorities are capital wise for the water system. In 2025, the plan is to work on a number of smaller priority projects. Again, the major one being the water master plan. There's a few other smaller engineering type work that we need to get done, but the idea here is to really focus on planning for the future. And again, I know that as well there, the Charles Lake is one of the main priorities of having that understood and what the cost is going to be in the engineering completed on Charles Lake. We aren't there yet, but when we look at the sheets, you'll get a better sense. One thing that I am seeing is that we use some taxation, and I'm not always 100% sure where we came with the numbers, but we have about $30,000 of taxation money that goes into the water fund, and we use $176,000 of taxation that goes into the sewer fund. And I'm suggesting that the sewer fund is healthy enough that you could lower that. You could even lower it lower than what I'm suggesting, which may help some of the pressure. But if you took $100,000 out of the tax contribution to sewer and moved it over to water, so you would be net zero as far as the tax contribution, staying the same, but that you would take some pressure off of the water fund and the large increases that we need to keep it solid. On the sewer utility side, and again, too, as I noted in the budget notes there, that a number of projects, just with the changeover in the leadership at Public Works, One of the main one was the sewer relining point repair. So just so council's aware, we had some success. We showed it last year's budget where we had done a number of kilometers of relining. It's such an impressive technology that almost like a balloon where they go from one manhole to another, and as long as the manhole is still there, they pull this balloon through and then they fill it up, and it creates about a centimeter thick fiberglass resin inside the sewer, and eliminates the roots. Well, the roots are eliminated, but it eliminates cracks and those sorts of things, which allow trees to get in and block up the sewer system. So it's very effective. Obviously, in doing that, going from just manhole to manhole, you're not digging up the street, having to then pave it, put the proper crush in and make those changes. So it's very, very valuable. But one of the challenges can be is that you get to a section and there may be a change in pipe, or there's a break in the pipe. So for example, there may be a soft area and they have to go in and point repair. So they gotta go, they find an area where there's been a crush pipe or a pipe that's not, using gravity. And so they go into that location because we've had all the cammering done on the kilometers of sewer. And so they go in and they do those point repairs, and then they can come back and say, okay, now you can do another kilometer, instead of saying, well, you can do 250 meters and then leave that section and then come back and do another section. This allows us to be efficient. So the plan obviously for 2025 is to do these point repairs, and in light of having a big year of relining in 2026. There's a couple other trouble areas for our sewer, Shavers Bench, and also Dewey and Fifth Avenue Hill are also some other smaller projects that we're proposing for 2025. Again, just talking about the reallocation, you'll see it a bit better when we get to the bigger sheets. So sewer and watering rate history, you can kind of see where the changes have been. Yes, the last number of years. Again, I'm going to preach it from the pulpit on asset management and what your utilities you need to have. The price we didn't pay for water, to have as much water come to your house. And then we also take away that wastewater. The cost of that is really, an important component. And I know for many people, they pay more for their cell phone. These types of utility services, and they're all working fine, or they're working at, it's great, but as soon as you have a break, if people don't have water or sewer backup, it is a nightmare for a community. So again, just noting that we have an infrastructure deficit, in particular in water, that we need to address, and the only way you're going to be able to do it, unless you want to do a big amount of borrowing, which actually will cost you even significantly more money over time. Doesn't mean that for certain projects you could borrow. It makes sense to do that. But in most cases here, making sure that your utility rate is set at an amount that you're not only covering those utility operating expenses, but putting money into your capital reserve is going to be key. So you'll notice those are where the rate amounts are. You can see that on the sewer side, we're quite a bit lower than we have been than the last couple of years. Again, sewer, we're up at a significant increase again this year. Moving to environmental health services, that's sort of what the sheet, the nice way that the government likes to say garbage pickup or those sorts of things, and then if you show on our financial statements, you can see that the revenues that we had forecasted to collect were pretty much as close as possible. And again, same way with the expenses that we're seeing for the fall and spring cleanup, they're pretty close to what you budgeted as well. And of course, council had directed me to, as a CFO, to make sure that the 3 months where residents had paid for a full year utility or garbage, that 3 months was refunded back for the garbage collection portion of the fee. So they, last year they did get a significant credit that came back to them. So you can see that that's all sort of played out there. Anyway, those are just sort of the notes that I have, and I'm hoping the council got a chance to read that. And I'll take any questions if you want to now, but I thought I would walk through just a couple of I would share the sheets and we would go through what we're seeing in 2025 and onwards. Again, these spreadsheets that we do are for 15 years. And so I think it's important for council to realize that there is a long game that goes on with dealing with, utilities here. Now, the sheet that I have up in front, which I don't know if you guys, I mean, you guys are watching online, whether you can or cannot see all of it. But the first one they're gonna be is, looks like it's sheet B is what I have. And sheet B is the wastewater utility, so you might as well see the good news that's happening. Currently, we are tracking for the most part, on the sewer main upgrade. So those projects there that we noted in 2024, so that'll be under column P where the budget was, and then column O is sort of what we're projecting. We still have obviously some time to go to get to the end of the year in the audit, but this is where our best estimate is. You can see that under row 30, you can see they had almost 1.6 million in upgrades. That's more than what you would expect in most years, but that related to Daniel Street being that synergy project where you have water, stormwater and sewer, as well as redoing the wall and the paving. So that's why that's in there. And the other component to that would have been groutage, finishing up all the groutage, the paving for all of the infrastructure. You know, it looks beautiful down there and that's fantastic. But what's also really important is what's happened to the pipes that were underneath the ground. We had a lot of pipes there that were very, very old and had a lot of breaks, which again costs us operationally because you now need to send staff in to go and fix and repair a pipe. And that's expensive. So you can see that's looking quite successful. We were able to get the equipment that they were looking for. Revenues are again tracking very close to what you would have expected. One thing that's very key and one of the things that allows us, I think, to have a lower increase now and going forward is the fact that the debt that will be retired in 2025 for the previous capital work. So this utility will have no debt in it at the end of 2025. So again, one of the reasons why you're able to be successful. Now, if you look at row 24 and as you follow it out, you can see that even the $600,000 to $700,000 worth of capital projects after paying for operational costs, you can see that the reserve really starts to grow, which isn't uncommon. Compounding effect is significant. You can see out in 2039, we're looking at having $4.4 million in the reserve. And when I was talking about before under row 44, you can see that continuous tax contribution to sewer that the city currently has at $176,000 a year, kind of ongoing. That's what this will be showing. So I'm now going to switch to A, which is sort of where water is at this point in time. I'm going to see if I can sure right here, which I think again. So that should change on the sheet. May not be easy for people to read, but at least give them the ideas of numbers we're looking at. Water, couple things happening here. When I've come the last couple of years, the numbers were really bleak. Now, some of the work that we have done and some of the commitments that council has done to not only commit to increasing much over an inflationary amount for the water fee, is that we committed last year, we had a surprise surplus and council decided to put $800,000 or $900,000 into the reserve. So that was it's a huge help. We also committed in 2024 that we were also going to put in another $650,000 if we have a surprise surplus or just from general surplus into that reserve. So right there, council is doing sort of their job of allocating where they can surprise reserve funds to help out with this capital pressure that is happening in the water fund. Also, we have looked at contributing basically all of the annual community works fund that we get from the government, the gas tax, into the water fund. All of this is to try to keep fund in there to be able to support what's happening with the capital requests that are coming. You can see, again, a planning year here, so not a big year. But in 26 and 27, with Charles Lake Drive and then Tadjunk Reservoir sort of put in there as placeholders, you can see very quickly that puts a lot of pressure on the reserve. In fact, you can see that by 2027, we're at negative. Then by 2029, we're, negative, and then ongoing. As the rates are increasing, you're also starting to see that the reserve balance is actually goes up and then starts to come down as the timing goes on with the user rates continuing to go up, is starting to offset the cost of capital. In 2024, you can see that engineering work has been done, some of it has been put off. We've got the pumps finished at the Bear Creek well, which is row 31, and I'm looking at columns O and P. Lower Lookout Reservoir. Council remembers that we had a lower budget there, and we agreed some of the savings and some of the other projects that we had, that we would boost that up. That's, the roof is actually going on this week for Lower Lookout Reservoir, so that'll be completed before the snow really hits, so that's fantastic. Water master plan, did not get touched this year, and we've got it into 2025. That water main replacement, obviously the big chunk of that was the work that was done, is being done, and has been done up at Daniel Street. The only thing that we're waiting on is that we're gonna put the curbs in this week, and we wanna get it paved. If we don't get it paved, that would be a bad thing, but we also know that weather starts to work against us each week we get past closer to winter. Again, here's where under row 54, you can see that tax contribution at 30,000, and I've got that extended out. Under this particular scenario, it's kind of a status quo of where we're at. You can see that a few things that also help the reserve is that in 2028, all the debt in the water will be paid off. So that's one of those things that helps us. And I want to be clear that I'm just here as a sort of precursor. We're at this stage, and I'll be looking for direction from council on what they think about rates. Don't have to have an answer, but just what their thoughts are. And if they also want me to come back with, what does this rate look like, or what happens if we borrow some money? How does that help out with trying to smooth the rate increases? So these are all questions that I hope that we'll be able to entertain as we go through this. And again, it's not 10% forever, but it is, I've got 10% for 25 to 28, and then dropping that down to 5%. So there could be something like, well, hey, do we go lower, but then borrow some money? Again, borrowing might be something they consider, especially in the next couple of years, or even in the next year or so, especially with the significant decrease in the prime rate that makes borrowing in a better decision, or an easier decision than it had been when we were looking at even MFA having borrowings in that 6%, which is huge. Start borrowing millions of dollars at 6%, paying it off over 10 or 20 years, you start paying more in interest than you do actually for the money you borrow. Now, again, the same boat, it also does spread that cost off if you're doing some infrastructure upgrades that benefits all users. It sort of spreads that cost out over time if you borrow. So that's A and B. And so then I will switch to C and D. So just let me also just change the sharing of my screen, please. And so this one here is the water fund. Just to realize the only change that you're seeing here is what's highlighted under column O, row 55. And you can see that in moving from $30,000 from the tax contribution to $130,000 and carrying that on in perpetuity. And again, council can also request to increase this at any kind of time as well, but it is one of the numbers that has the effect. And so when you look at this, and then you look at the ending reserve balance, all things being equal, the different capital projects that we want to do, this is also, again, a consistent 10% for the next 4 years and then 5% ongoing. But you can see that $100,000 makes a difference just in the reserve balance. You can see in row 26 at the ending reserve balance, we don't actually get negative until 2031, so you could see that it kind of helps with that pressure that we're feeling. And as you get a few years of being underwater, if you were to continue this way without any borrowing, it starts to come back up again. So by the time we get out to 2039, if the rates are increasing at the stage that they've been requesting, that you start to put money into the reserve. You're actually ahead of, the capital costs that you're incurring. A couple of the things too, one that we'd be remiss in talking about is, one of the factors that's helping the numbers is the fact that inflation has come down. So we had the inflation up at a higher rate going out, and now that inflation has come down a bit, you can see that is something that, is having a positive effect on the expected capital costs as we go out. Then just to look at D in a sense, which is now sewer. The only thing that's changed here is again under column O, row 44, dropping from $176,000 down to 76,000. And carrying that out, you can see that again, under row 24, that pretty consistent sort of healthy, where you're matching having a healthy reserve, but also the rates are funding operational costs and your capital that you're undertaking each year. Again, having a bit of money in there in case there's something bigger that comes along isn't a bad thing. It can also allow you to look at, well, what if we, get to a year where this is being consistent, you could say, hey, what does it look like if we do 2.5% increase or a 2% increase? But obviously the wastewater utilities in a healthier spot that way, but it also doesn't have the capital infrastructure deficit that the water fund does. So anyway, I know that that's a lot to take in, and I'm just again curious on any questions that council may have, and any direction there.
Councilor Martin, go ahead.
This is good information. It is a lot of information. My only concern, and I understand your 10%, the need for that. Do you have any indication from the regional district what the cost of the Columbia Pollution Control Center is going to be a hit towards the taxpayers of the city of Trail?
I did based on sort of what they were projecting last year, and I can tell you that right now, which is a great question.
And while you're looking, the reason I'm asking is just more and more and more, we're going to hear about it.
Yes. Yeah, you are correct. And I mean, the hard work that went into ESAT services on working with and finding a vendor that they could negotiate with. The cost of that program has ballooned, which isn't unexpected with all the inflation costs we've seen, whether it's materials and or labor. But trying to contain that, and then really a hopeful thing, Councilor Martin, is them also being able to borrow at rates that even, like, it's fascinating that within a year we would be seeing percentage points rolling off the debt. That is huge when you're borrowing $10 million. So even what they looked at a year ago for what they need to borrow, that cost likely is coming down significantly, right? So that will be helpful. So, but when we are talking about what we were looking at for budget in 2024, one of my slides there was trying to alert council and the public on what we were sensing would be the cost pressure. And so I think it's in this slide here, so you won't see this, but I can. I'll just give you a few numbers. Bear with me as I pull this up. Talks about yourselves. Say. Sorry, no, not at all. That's a great question, because I think it's important to see it. I guess I'm gonna find it. What I was looking for was sort of talking about what it would what it would be for an individual home, because the one thing that we were noting is that the difference in the tax requisition in 2025 projected, it was about 1.2 million. So, most cases, that's that's a huge jump, right? So that's as a 92% jump, so basically almost 100% jump. Now, somewhat unfair, Council Martin, because we haven't seen what the new numbers are, both operational and capital wise, debt and that sort of things, but I'm just saying, this is what they presented when we were looking at this last year. So, yeah, as far as what that costs and servicing, certainly when we come back and we meet on November 25th, I'll have those numbers, and potentially at that time, there may be even an estimate from RDKB that would allow me to say, here's what we're seeing that effect being.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yes, not lost on me, and again, but that's the other side of, you get the invoice and it has City of Trail for your property taxes, and we're on behalf of regional district that we collect. But in the same boat, that upgrade to that system, pretty significant grant that's come in. Yes, the costs have gone up, but you're going to have a product, a new wastewater treatment plant there that would be good for 50 years. So sometimes it's hard in the light of what's happening today. And it's the same challenge that you're facing here today is, the capital cost is just going to keep coming. So if we don't find a way to fund it, and if we have a major break or something, then we're going to likely have, where do we get the water from? How do we handle these sorts of things? There's no guarantee, even as we try to build up this reserve or get the funding in, that we don't have a problem, but we just know that that capital cost is coming. And we'll speak better, I think, on the prioritization once we get that water master plan data on what we need to tackle. Fair question, absolutely. I guess I might just throw too, does any concern from council on reallocating the tax portion that you are currently now putting into from, switching it from water to sewer, some sewer to water?
I don't, yeah, and I mean, I think it, kind of makes sense. If it's sitting there and we have an opportunity to use it to a better advantage in the, sewer, I think it's something that we should definitely look at. It doesn't really make, that much change in the amount of the annual rate.
Right now, yeah.
So, yeah, so, I think that's a positive move. And a suggestion from staff would make me feel more comfortable that it's probably the right way to go, because they work with it, right? They work with that budget. I think they would have a good idea, if that was something that, wouldn't, be efficient, I guess I'm saying that to me, it looks like a good move on our part.
And one thing, just to go back to Councilor Martin's comment, which is value, is if in doing this, the one thing that you might get a benefit of this year is that increase of that 10, or in a number that's, up there, is taking away that fee from the garbage will help Benny as well, as far as taking that pressure off in the current year. I don't know, it's a bit unnerving when there's no.
Well, no, Let me remind,
Yeah.
council that I took a accounting course in 1980. So I'm a little rusty, and so I
Yeah.
rely heavily on, again, on the expertise of our CFO, CAO, so. And it's a net zero result, we're not gonna be paying more, and it's just a reallocation, just kind of.
On the tax out.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So it makes sense, I concur, I have no issues with it whatsoever.
Okay, again, not hearing any questions from you, but I would also, and not maybe today, but if you're, want to send me an email, but if there's some desire of, hey, what does it look like if we borrow some money and to smooth out the rates, if that's one of the questions that you may have, or if you wanted to see something like that, that's something I could certainly do.
When do we settle on the rate? I mean, this is proposed rates.
Yeah.
When do we kind of, what's that next step?
Well, so for me, the part that I'm coming back in, November 25th would be, unless there's a sort of a real undercurrent of, where are we landing, whether or not there's we're not comfortable with 10, it's a little bit less, or maybe we want to go a little bit higher, I don't know, because there's a savings, it's always possible. But also it sounds like, again, wise, question from Councilor Martin to come back and say, hey, what's also the effect on our, knowing that our same taxpayers paying at their EKB for sewer. What gives a picture too of what's gonna be hitting on utility side for that. But keeping that in mind, but we also have to take care of our own as much as they're taking care of theirs. They know what they're doing, and we will just get the tax requisition and they will just go out. That's how it works. It's a little bit different. I realize that you guys need to go to Furrows or Safeway and go in the grocery store or Canadian Tire and hope that you may sometimes don't see people in the aisleway, but I think that we're giving you the information to be able to say, this is a necessary thing to be able to do to get the rate up so that you're funding capital.
Mhm.
But my goal would be when I come on the 25th, would maybe look at what does it look like if we borrow and smooth, and what are the rates from MFA? That's something that council wants to look at. And, have the information on what we're seeing from our partners at RDKB. But like I said, the most part, I would like to know if you're okay with dropping the garbage from the utility bill. I mean, that would be one that would be good to know just to move forward. Likely, probably not too concerned about where sewer rate is at 3% or $8. You're probably not too concerned about what I'm thinking. But I just try to focus on the water. That's probably where I,
Yeah,
would like to get your feedback. And
we're in the double
just-
digits, and I know that, that kind of sets off alarms for folks, so maybe we can focus a little bit on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but that my goal would be, and as well, to come back with maybe 2 spreadsheets more focused on water. And we could also, like we did last year, even just change the rate a bit and kind of see what the
Yeah.
effect is. And like I said, sometimes when you're changing it, that 1.5%, it's only, $4 or $5 sort of thing. So always me just wanting to drive home that the more you kind of get upfront on some of this, the benefit you get from that compounding effect of what happens. It is fascinating on that compounding effect, even though that 15 years.
Thank you.
So, Mr. McClure, do you think that once we do the water master plan update, do you think anything could change for us in our projections here along the way?
I think a couple things could happen. One, you might find out that you've got a priority that's an unknown priority that, right now we see Charles Lake and being able to twin that. It is a major source of obviously for water. And what I've been told is that no matter what happens, if we were to expand our water services to others, that twinning needs to be done anyway. The engineering has been done. It's a major component of the water system. But who knows? You might say, hey, you've got something failing at the water treatment plant. Hey, you've got a pump station or a Bear Creek well or something is not keeping up to the volume that it's needing. I don't know what's gonna come out of it. But that's that guideline of kind of understanding if you've got something that's coming sooner, again, we would deal with that. You might say, well, if this is coming sooner, we have to deal with it, much like the RDKB was able to get a grant. Provinces and feds are really against just providing grant funding for fixing what you should have been fixing the whole time and putting money aside. Again, if you've got something else, I had suggested that it doesn't look like it would work, but under Charles Lake, it comes down the hill, could you put some way of creating electricity out of it? which isn't uncommon, right? But that's the sort of thing where someone said, oh, you could do that, well, then we'll provide a grant for you to do that. Those are, again, things that people do when you, especially when you live in the mountains and you've got that pressure coming down. It is something to consider. It's apparently not as consistent as what one might think, to be able to create generation of power out of it. But it is that type of thinking that allows, and again, who knows what else may come out on working with others. There may be grant funding that comes that if we were to work with others, but right now, I would think that it's gonna be highly unlikely, and that's why when you think about such a big grant that we received at the Memorial Center, when you start heat savings, GHG savings, that's where they're really putting their money towards on the grants. So.
Okay. So, what's council's pleasure? Do we want to give, Mr. McClure any direction or at this time?
I think what do you, if I may,
Sure, go ahead, Councilor Martin.
what you were suggesting coming back on the 25th with some numbers so we can have a look and go from there.
Yeah, and I would hope that that time, I think that we've got the full council would be here as well.
Okay.
So, but I would be curious if something wakes you up tonight and you're like, hey, I didn't ask this question, or I wanna know something else, if you just send me an email and happy to work on it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that information. I think that we will move on in the agenda to the grants and aids sponsorships. And the first item is 5.1. We have a report on the grants to the organizations dated November 8th, 2024. Mr. McClure, did you want to speak on that?
Just
Not really much.
no, just again, a realization, Ms. Lucchini's been patient with me. And just something I think it's important that I try to, we have this updated so that when we do get the grants, you get a sense of what's happening.
Yeah, no, it's
Right?
great.
It's so,
Mhm.
I apologize, I can't exactly remember when the last one was back in I want to say April, May kind of timeframe, and things are usually busy, but the fact that we kind of see where we're sitting and what's happening, I think it just allows council an understanding of, hey, if we're gonna provide funding, are we up against a number, or do we have some room? So I think that that's important information for them.
Okay, thank you for that update. The next item on the agenda is 5.2, and it is for the Generation to Generation Society and the application for a cash grant of $10,000. And we had the delegation before us this afternoon. Is there any questions or motion to?
Oh. Hey, Mayor Jones,
Yes.
I should step out on this one as I'm a director. So if you want, I can log out and log back in or whatever you guys prefer.
No, I think you're fine.
Is it okay? Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, you're fine, but thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so is there anyone that wants to make the motion or a
I'll
motion?
make a
or
motion to
Counselor-
$10,000 grant.
Okay, Counselor Butler is seconding it. Okay. All those in favor?
If it's okay that I vote yes, I'm in favor.
And that was carried, thank you. The next item is 5.3, and that's the Lower Columbia Affordable Housing Society and the request for the cash grant of $15,500.
I do have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Perhaps maybe Mr. McClure could help me with this one. Just on the financials, I can find it on here. It's the statement, hang on a second here. Statement of cash flow. It's on the attachments, it's page 6. Are you there, Mr. McClure?
Think so?
Well, I'm just looking at the, and I mean, you can help me decipher this.
Yeah.
It's at the end of 2023, so I realize it's not absolutely current, but it looks like there's a number on there that reads $516,038.
Yeah.
Cash and cash equivalents year end.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, that'll be what the money they have in the bank. That's what they will have, whether it's a GICs or your operating bank account. You can see that it will have gone up, not by a lot, and you can see the different areas. Again, they're paying down long-term debt. You can see that they will also needing some of that money as they move forward, as their portion into working on the new seniors villa. That's gonna be an expensive venture for them. And again, even in 2023, some of the movements that they made to be able to, get the tenants moved and.
That didn't come up today in conversation with that association. Are they part of the building? No. Because it was not part of any of the documentation that we received.
Oh, that was my
Lower
understanding
Columbia
is that that's what
Affordable
their
Housing
property
Society.
is it not?
I thought it was a separate entity doing that society, that particular building. It's not part of the Lower Columbia
Oh,
Affordable
Well,
Housing.
that's my misunderstanding then.
They've got 15 units in Trail.
Mhm.
The last units built were in 2021. There's 9 units over in Columbia House, a nice little apartment building over there. And then they've got a duplex and a fourplex. And they're asking for $15,500 to do an asset management forecast for those buildings. I guess my question is, and I would ask this, and I appreciate the financial reports on this, and I'll ask your opinion again, Mr. McGuire, is there a financial need for us to give them $15,500 when they might be sitting on nearly $500,000 in cash assets? That's my question.
Yeah. And again, too, when I look at their balance sheet, one of the questions that I see is, they've got 17 million in intangible capital assets, so that's, I'm not sure what page that is. But they've also got construction loans of, subject to refinancing, note 5, so that's something that I don't know where they're at with that, but you can see where, at $14.5 million. And again, on the refinancing, let's see if we can't see what note 5 says.
I didn't ask Ms. Morton this when she was in because she didn't have her financials, and she wasn't prepared to answer, so I appreciate the time on this.
I mean, even in the report that they gave us, they said they're requesting a grant and aid assistance from the city of Trail to complete building condition reports of its 3 properties. 578 Bin Street is a duplex, 1358 is Macquarie Street is a 4-plex, and 1232 Columbia Avenue is a 9-plex.
And so the big driver there for them, Councillor Cashel and council, is that they've taken on the Roslyn Midtown project. So, that's Robin Yards.
Yeah, and she did say we're looking at Roslyn to provide the monies to do the plan for that. And I assume the same will happen in the last 2 villages of Fruitvale to help with the 31 units that are being built out there as well. Yeah, I mean, the Lower Columbia Affordable Housing Society is, once Roslyn or once Fruitvale is finished, 17% of the rentals are in Trail.
With the new,
When Fruitvale is finished, with our 15, when you look at what's happening in Roslyn and, we're at, I have a quick math here, we're at 17% of the rentals for that Lower Columbia Affordable Housing are in Trail. I'm not saying we shouldn't, consider what they're asking for in terms of these 3 units, but, I guess my question is there a financial need that we can see from the financials?
and again, it's sort of hard because this isn't sort of split apart into, what is Trail and, where is this coming together? And again, is it going to have an effect in 2024 if they had to refinance and the interest rates are higher and then now they're taking a bit of loss, but does that also mean that they've got additional rental income that's coming in? So sort of hard to tell. If they started to rent those units out, when we visited them, they weren't all rented. So it's a good question, sir. Absolutely.
Do we know the rental vacancy? I didn't want to ask her, but I should have maybe on the Roslyn Yards.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with deferring. And if you want me to get some additional answers, so this, or just, they won't obviously have their 2024 statements.
No.
But
I would make a motion to defer until we get some clarification on their financial need.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a motion to defer. And Council
Until further financial statements are provided?
Well, no, just, I think there's some answers to some of these questions.
Okay.
That, hearing-
Until clarification of financial need?
Yeah. And again, I know that they do good work, we wanna have them in our community.
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
this is, you know, but it is a fair statement to say it's costing X. You know, and maybe it's not much of an issue, as much of an issue if they've taken on the building up in Roslyn, because it's brand new. So it's not like you need a full assessment on that, because it's just unwrapped sort of thing, right? And so it's moving more on the local ones here that you're trying to deal with.
Well, when I was in Estrada in Kelowna, it's a 40-year-old Strata, and the government comes out with, you gotta do depreciation reports, which are similar to this, and 48 units, extensive, thorough, 30-year forecast, and it was like $5,000 it cost. So, yeah, I mean, anyway,
Happy to ask the question.
thank you, Mr. Moore.
So we have a motion to defer. So, all those in favor of a motion to defer? That was carried. Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is a resolution to adjourn the governance and operations committee portion of the meeting and immediately resolve into in-camera and pursuant to section 90 of the community charter, the public be excluded from the meeting as the subject matter being considered relates to the following. The community charter, section 91A, community charter, section 91E, community charter, section 91G, and the community charter, section 91K. So the motion to adjourn, Councillor Butler and Councillor Martin, all those in favor? That was carried. Thank you.
Thanks, council.
Mr. Nutini, can I go home? That's just you. Take your notes and,